Okay, so we said we have this database. With this database, we'd like to insert some kind of invoices like this one. So this is an example of invoice. If we'd like to insert this invoice, we need to just do it in two parts. The first part is going to be some parts here in the invoice, table invoice, and the other one is going to be in the invoice has items. So that's what we did just the first part. We just put the date, the ID, the date, the ID of the invoice, and like this one over here, and then the date. Remember, the date, it has to be this year, month, and day. And then this is the ID of the customer, because this was Muhammad, and we have the customer Muhammad's ID is 1, so we just used 1. And then 20, because that's the total of the whole purchase. The total of the invoice is 20. Now this is not enough, because I still need to insert this kind of information. So I need to just now do the same thing. I'm going just to put this as a comment, so I'm not going to be executing it. Insert into, and then I have invoice has items, and put the values. The first one I need to put is the ID of the invoice. The second one is the ID of the item, and then the quantity and the price. So let's just respect that. So the ID of the invoice is 1. The ID of the pen, what is the ID of the pen? Well, I need to go back here and see for this item. The pen is ID number 1. So what I need to put is that 1, 1, and then quantity is 5, and then price was 4. Right? Quantity 5, price 4. So if I insert this, now it was inserted correctly. If I just run them again just to see everything, I have this item as invoice. I have this kind of information. ID of the invoice is 1, ID of the item is 1, and quantity sold is 5, and price is here. Now if I'd like to also do this properly, now that I sold 5 pens, I need to take them out from the stock. So I need to do what? Now I need to update items, set what? So what's the name of this in items? It's quantity stock. Okay, so I need to change this quantity stock to something. Okay, set quantity stock to what? Now it should be, what is the value that it should be? I sold 5. It was before 100. So normally it should become 95. Right? Well, I'm just checking you step at a time. Of course, you see that this is not going to work all the time, because I need to put the calculation myself. No, actually, but I'm just trying to at least get you to know what is the instruction that needs to be executed, and then we're going to improve it. So now, is this enough? No. Because if I do this, if I run this, all of them are going to become. If I execute this thing, now 3 rows were affected. Why 3 rows? I wanted to change only 1. Now 3 rows are affected. Well, let's just run everything. I don't care. So see for yourself. This is the quantity. This is the invoice. The customer, nothing happens here, but here, update item, set quantity stock equal 95. That's what I said. This is what was done. This is not what I want. I want only for the pen to be changed, not for all of them. So I need to put a where. So let me bring back the 100, and then, so now these are all one. What happened? These are all 100. Okay, I need to run it again. So these are all 100 because I displayed before. Let me display after. Now what I'd like to do, I'd like to just make this to be 95, and let's put a condition. Condition based on what? ID is equal to 1. Why no the ID is equal to 1? Because this is the one that I just inserted. I inserted the price in the item number 1. Now every time I insert some values inside this invoice has item, I need to update with that same ID that is here of the item. I need to update it to do something like this. But actually there's a better way. I can just do something minus 5. This 5 here, this is what I sold.
Okay, and that's better.
So now what I'm going to say, take the quantity. The quantity is going to be equal to what? Look at the old quantity and subtract 5 from it, and this is what you're going to be the new quantity.
Yes.
You see, not seeing it? Okay. Let me just get this a little bit down, or we just don't look at it for now. So now what we need to do every time we insert something here, what we need to do, we need to update this item. The quantity stock should change from this to minus what was sold for every product. Let's say let me do something. Imagine now the invoice, actually it's like this. It was 5. Now let's say I don't have a book. Let me delete this. I have this mouse that I sold 2 mice, or let's make them 10 so it will be easier. I'm saying this 10 mice, not just 1. So normally if I'd like to insert that, first of all I need to update this. This should be not 20, but it should be like this number, but I don't care for that now. Okay, I don't care about the total of the invoice. The total has changed. I don't care. Let's just focus now just on the quantity of stock, and then later on we will care. Now this quantity stock worked for this thing here because we just inserted that data. Now I'd like to just keep this here. Now I'd like to, this is done. What if I insert this line here? I would like to insert this line here. So I need to do the same process. I need to have, now you can help me better, insert into, sorry? You know what I'm trying to do? I'm just trying to show you that this thing that we just did, we can duplicate that for every item that we have in an invoice. So we have this now. Our invoice was just having 1 item. Now just would like to show that what happens if I have more than 1 item. Now if I would like to have more than 1 item, which means I need to insert into this invoice item. Invoice has item these values. So what are the values? What's the ID of the first thing is the ID of the invoice. What is the ID of the invoice? Don't forget that the first one is the ID of the invoice. I need to put the ID of the invoice, the ID of the item, the quantity, and then the price. So what is the ID of the invoice? It did not change. That's the same invoice here. I'm in the same invoice. Okay, I think you have some problems. First of all, we're just having many data related to one invoice. But let's just, this is invoice number 1, isn't it? So we just have to keep this invoice number 1. So the number of the ID of the invoice is number 1. But now you're right. The ID of the item, I need to know which one is the ID of the mouse. That's 2. So I'm going to put 2. Now this 2 here is for the item. Now the quantity, how much was sold? 10. To which price? 60. Sorry?
600.
No, 60 we said. 600 is the total of 60 multiplied by 10. So this is what we insert. This is calculated when we don't have it there, but this is what's going to be. We can have like a total of this if we'd like to add it, but this is not part of that. So now if I insert this, after that I just would like to update the same thing, the item, but should I just deduct only 5? No, this time I should deduct 10 for the ID number 1? No, for the number 2. So every time I insert something inside this invoice has item, I need to update the item to subtract that quantity that was sold from that ID that was put of that item. Yes.
This is still manually. Isn't there a way that you can?
I'm just taking you to that. Just bear with me. I'm going step by step. Just first of all, I need you to realize what needs to be done every time I insert an item, and where am I inserting that item, and then after that I'm showing you what needs to be done in a way that needs to be done, and then we're going to do this automatically with triggers. That's the point. That's the whole point. We are not going to be doing this manually. We're going to be doing it automatically. Now, what is going to be the results if I insert this? I would like to make sure that you understand what is going to be the result. First of all, I need to refresh this. Can I? First of all, let's just run this, because normally I should have something else. Let's just execute this. You see I have in this time only one line here in the invoice. This is what I have. In the customers nothing changed, but here something happened. I did not run this line, so I need to run this line here first. I forgot to run this line. That's why I was looking for. So this line was about the ID equal to 1, because why I said that you see here, now it should show that the correct value. The quantity of pens is 95 because I just sold 5. How do I know that I sold 5? Because if you go here inside here, this ID item number 1, 5 were sold, and we all started with 100. Now it's 95. That's the right number. Now what I need you to look at is this 10. When I'm going to insert this line here, this is going to be inserted. So I sold just 10 mice. I'd like to deduct 10 from the quantity of stock of mice. So after running this code, I should see here that the items here should be 90. So let's just run that code and see it. Now go back, and here it is. A last one, and then we automate the things. What if I have screen, and now you should tell me, because if you want me not to keep adding things, you have to tell me what are the queries that I need to put, so you can. I don't care. So these are, I'd like to add in this same invoice number 1. Now the same invoice number 1 is not 2 but 3 items. If you see here in this invoice has item, I can see that the invoice number 1, it has item number 1, item number 2, and these are the quantities and stock and prices. Now I'd like to insert a new. Okay, hold on. I'm going to insert some new and another thing. This is also inside this invoice number 1. So what should I do? Insert into invoice has item, values. What values? So the ID of the item, ID of the invoice is 1. 3 because the screen is number 3. Okay. The quantity 20, and then the price 1700 or 1700. And then after doing this, I need to update item, set quantity stock equal quantity stock, and everything I'm just going to copy. Now what's the quantity?
20.
So it's 20, and what's the ID? 3. Now if I run this, this is the third item of the invoice number 1, and I can see now everything was updated. Now the fun part. So as you have noticed, every time I insert a line inside this invoice has item, I have to do something which is update the table item. So in order for me to be able to automate that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into here. So into this invoice has item, I am going to add the trigger. So now what I'm saying, I'm telling the database management system, and I need your attention here because this is becoming serious. I like your faces when I said that. So now I'm going to tell the database management system, look at this table. If something happens to it, this is what you should do. But I don't have a lot of options that something happens to it. What I can say that these are the only options that I have. Either something was inserted, or deleted, or updated. So these are the three actions that can happen to this table. If something was inserted into the table, I would like to do something, or updated or deleted. These are the three things that I can catch, some events. And for each one of these, there is before and after. Before it was inserted, or after it was inserted. So in our case, what should we do? Which trigger we should do? After what? Before what?
After the session.
First of all, we need to, is it insert, delete, or update? No. Every time we inserted, we had to do this. So this is the automatic thing that we can do. Can we do this automatically? No, we need to insert it ourselves. But this is what needs to be done automatically. So every time I insert in this invoice has item, I need to do something. So I need to look at the code for those that have insert. So I have now insert. But is it before or after? What's the difference?
To check the item.
What's the difference? Let me tell you what is the difference, so you can decide, is it before or after? First of all, before insert, or before any of these, means the data is not yet inserted into the table. The command is being issued, but before taking the values and putting them in the table, you would like to do something. Is that what you would like to do? Well, maybe it might work, but it's more logical that after you put the values, you would like to do something. So after the values are in the table, then you'd like to do something else. So that's what we'd like to do, actually, in this case, because this is what we've been doing. We insert the data, and then after that, we do something. So that's what we also would like the trigger to be looking at. So we're going to tell the trigger, after I'm inserting, I'm just going to click a plus here, and it's going to give me the code of this trigger. So first of all, there's a lot of different things, create, definer, whatever, but actually you can omit this just to make it simple. Create trigger, we give it the trigger, this is the name of the trigger. Generally you can choose any name you want, but this naming convention keeps it quite easy to understand. And you see, this is the name of the database or the schema, and this is the name of the trigger. So create trigger after insert on item, and for each row we're going to do something. So what this means, this is going to be, the database management system is going to create like an event that is going to be looking at. I mean, not create an event, it was going to catch an event. What event is that? After an insert happened, something will happen, but not on every insert on every table. No, we're looking on one table. You see, this is table item, so which means after we insert on a table item, something should happen. But is this really what we want to do? Do we really want to do something when we insert something into item or invoice as item? So we need to look at the right table, because now the event is going to happen, this trigger is going to happen only when something is added into the item, and this is not what we want. We want to do something when the invoice as item is inserted in it. So let's go back here, and we need to cancel this thing, and there's the minus here. We cancel this, and we need to select this table here to make sure that we have the invoice has item table, and in this invoice has item table we're going to create this invoice has item table, which is, I'm just going to remove this for now. And this is the syntax for that. So you create trigger, you give a name of that trigger, you give it a name. Okay, of course, as well, this is something you can omit because this is still into the database. But you have to mention when this shit is happening, on which table, and for each row, which means for each row that is going to be happening this to it, this is what you should do. So what we'd like to do now, we'd like to do this. Every time something is updated, we need to do this kind of thing here. But not exactly the same way, but something similar. But we don't want to have this 20. We want to have the quantity that was the quantity sold that was inserted. And this is the beauty of these triggers. It will allow you to it gives you the values, you can access them using this new dot. Well, that's the most important part, and some of you have just missed it. Good morning. Sorry? Oh, yes, thanks. So let's have a look at this thing over here. This is exactly, I just copied and pasted, but I just added something. I just updated item, and I set this quantity stock is equal to that. Notice that I changed just the value with something else.
Why the new?
Well, because you were not here. That's why I went the new. That's exactly why the new. So again, this is the most critical part. So you can just close your eyes for 5 minutes now and then try to imagine the rest. So this thing here is going to give you, when you insert a number, when you insert a row, this is going to give you the value of that column that was just inserted. Okay, let's go back here and remember what we just did. Every time we inserted something, you get this 20 from here. It's the same number that we just inserted. So this is the quantity. The 20 is in which column? The quantity stock. So it's like now this. I'm telling. Look at this line that was just inserted into the. You just inserted the line into invoice has item. This line that you just inserted has values for each of those columns. For each of those columns, you have a value. Now I'm just saying, look at the value that was inserted in quantity sold, and this is the value to use here. And now this is the value of same thing that was used in the ID of the item. So this number here 3 is the same that in ID of item. So that's what I'm doing. Now let me show you something. I'm going to.
Why is the new word in there?
Because this is the new data that is going to be inserted. Because we said after insert, so there was some new data that was inserted. This new data is exactly as opposed to old. So now have a look at this thing. Look what I'm just doing. I am going to forward engineer. Every time I forward engineer, of course, everything is going to be deleted, right? So let me just show it to you. I forward engineer. This is going to be deleting everything. Actually, I'm going to do something. Drop schema. I'm going to drop the whole schema before, which means everything that was there is going to be gone. And look at something. Now I have another trigger. I can see the different triggers. Let's see the code that's going to be generated. The first thing, I'm going to drop the whole schema. So what was there is going to be gone and reinitialized. I'm going to create it again, create the tables, etc., put the data, and then check this code. Okay, I need you to, for now, just don't pay attention to this dollar. I'm going to explain it later. But for now, we don't care about this dollar. Just look at this, what I'm just saying. Create a trigger, this is the name of the trigger, after insert on invoice as item, and for each row, this is what is going to happen. Well, let me just make it this way, it will be each row. So we create a trigger, this is the trigger. After every time there's an insert into this invoice as item, I'm going to update item and set the quantity equals quantity minus this new quantity sold that was entered, where the ID is equal to new ID item. So let's see this into action. Let's click next, and now close. Look here, I just commented all these lines because I don't want to execute them. Okay, the first line I'm going to execute, I'm going to create. If you see here, let me just first of all run this again so you can see them. So this is empty, invoice is empty, we have the customers, and everything is 100. Now I'm going to execute this one over here, which means now if I just select these, execute, let's just execute the invoice. I just inserted into the invoice this thing here. I just changed it to 0 so I don't have some confusion. Now I'd like to comment everything and just leave only the one to be executed so I can run everything. Now notice one thing. When I'm going to run this here, what is the new quantity sold? This is the new quantity sold, and this is the new ID. What I mean with that is that this quantity sold is going to be the value that was inserted into that column, quantity sold, which is in this case 5. So it's like I'm going to put this query here with this 5, and where ID is equal to this new ID item. What is the new ID item? Okay, the new ID item is this one that is the same as this one over here. So at the end I'm going to have this kind of query generated, but instead of just too quick, instead of this new quantity sold, this quantity sold is going to become the number 5, and the new ID item, which is the number 1. Let's just run this and see it. Now you see this was inserted. I did not execute this update, and check this. This was updated to 5. What if I do something like this? Now this 10 is going to be deducted from 2, and this 20 deducted from item number 3. So if I run these again, was there a problem? Yeah, because I just selected this thing. Now I just would like to run all of them. Something happened? What's going on? Oh, because this was already inserted. I need to uncomment this line because this was already inserted. I cannot insert these two again. You see this? You see the problem? The problem is that it tells me that insert into invoice this 1154, this 11 is the primary key and it was already there. So duplicate entry 11. It's already there, so I cannot insert it again. Now I commented it and it should be fine. Let me just hide this and run again. So you see now it was all these 3 were inserted and these were updated accordingly. So this new quantity stock, new that quantity sold, this is becoming a value of this column. So this is the purpose of this new. It gives you the value of the column that was inserted. Did you get that? Yes.
What if the quantity exceed the stock?
Well, in this case, we just keep, even if you sold 2,000, it's going to deduct 2,000, which will be minus 2,000. Yes. In this case, it's going to be that. Yeah.
That only happen after you insert?
Only after you insert.
Only on invoice has item?
And only on invoice has item. Now, if I insert something in other places, it's not going to happen. Nothing is going to happen because there's no trigger. If I want something to happen, then I need to put a trigger. Okay? So yes,
When we insert a trigger before the insert, that tells us if the stock is.
can you
available
insert
or
a trigger before insert?
Yes.
What do you mean insert a trigger? We don't insert a trigger.
But it's not inserting. I'm sorry, using a trigger.
Okay, you would like to define a trigger.
Yeah, define a trigger before inserting.
Yes.
That tell us if the stock is available or not. If it's not, it will not.
Well, you can do something. There's something, for example, you can just have, then before inserting, you would like to do some verification that if this quantity is going to become negative, then you're going to prevent this from happening. There's something you can do with that, yes. But I don't want to complicate things for now. I just would like to introduce you to this. So what I'd like you to do now to practice these kind of things, but let's see if we can take your questions.
One statement, right?
Sorry?
Every trigger.
No, it can have more than one. You can have, for example, update this here, update this there, and put this thing. Or you can do a lot of different things at the same time. So every time I insert something and I'd like to do something else somewhere else, well, no problem. Just put the code. But just remember that if you need to use some of the data that was just inserted, you can just do something like this. Just this new dot. And then you can, with the new dot, it allows you to get access to any value that was just inserted. And these are the values that can be inserted. Do you think you can try this and make it work? Okay. So in order for you not to lose time typing everything, I'm just going to delete this. Wa alaikum salam. And I will just put this on the website so you can use it.